guys, we're talking some Harley Quinn Season 3 on the channel today with Episode 4. My apologies, by the way, for not getting a review up for the first 3 episodes. I thought they were phenomenal, especially the last episode, Episode 3. But from here on out, you can expect weekly episodic reviews of every single episode, much like I did with Peacemaker and Titans, as all the episodes are given to critics ahead of time for review purposes, so huge shout out to HBO Max for that. And if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to stick around, say subscribe, and leave a like on the video, and let's talk some Harley Quinn. Much like how we saw in the first 3 episodes, there are a bit of growing pains in this relationship between Harley and Ivy, which is totally understandable because this is like the first healthy relationship that each of them have really had. Especially for Harley. I guess you could argue about Ivy and Kite Man, but even still. But you do have to feel for Ivy in this episode, trying her hardest to still work on that serum to terraform Gotham, as Harley Quinn is just going wild in this house. Like, we're talking Harley, King Shark, and Clayface forming a hardcore band in the living room and jamming out. I thought that was hysterical, especially because King Shark has spinning drums, much like Tommy Lee from Motley Crue did. It would be one thing if that was the only occurrence that was annoying Ivy, but then you throw on top of that Harley using Catwoman's Japanese bidet very loudly. It's a really cool looking bidet though. Like, I've never personally used a bidet, but it looked pretty intriguing in this episode. Episode 4 definitely centers a lot around compromises and relationships and how one person usually has to compromise in some shape or form to keep the other one happy, but also how that can be kind of bad and you have to be more open to have a fulfilling, good relationship. We see that showcase for both Harley and Ivy, as each of them have to learn these lessons along the way, as both of them have to infiltrate the Court of Owls to find Frank after he's been kidnapped. Out of the 2 lies, I do think Ivy's is a bit more understandable because she tells Harley that Catwoman says she's not allowed to do all of these different things. Harley's retaliation, you know, it is very Harley in nature for her to get upset about that and just break a bunch of stuff, mainly the surveillance cameras. It's just extremely bad timing because she destroyed all the surveillance cameras, and now we have nothing to go on here to figure out who came in and kidnapped Frank. The only identifying mark they have to try and track down this person that stole Frank is a mole on their butt, thanks to Cy Borgman helping them out because he's the all-knowing internet now. That and of course the Court of Owls brooch, which I mentioned before. The Court of Owls is very integral to the story in this episode. It was really nice seeing a new appearance of Cy Borgman. I have to wonder, as the episodes progress in Season 3, are we also going to get a little bit of Dr. Psycho? Because I do think his presence is sorely missed in this show, at least currently. It was also nice to get a quick segment with the Joker. We don't really address what happened in the last episode where he accepted the Best Couple Award for Harley and Ivy, but nevertheless, still pretty great. He has all the info on the Court of Owls, but the most funny part of this entire scene is his attempt at helping his son to try and do all of his homework, and he has a reasonable reaction to Common Core math, just chucking the computer across the room, which honestly, out of all the crazy things that Joker has done over these last couple seasons, I think that is one of the more valid things that he's ever done. I've personally never been a big fan of Common Core math either. I haven't chucked a computer across the room because of it, but I've definitely wanted to. The other plotline that factors into the Court of Owls I thought was pretty hilarious as well. The show's humor is on point in this episode. Seeing Gordon still trying his best to campaign for mayor, and the guy that he actually is campaigning against is in a coma, and he's still beating Gordon in the mayoral race, which is pretty embarrassing. So at this point, Gordon's gonna try his best to do anything, and he's gonna try and get campaign dollars from the Court of Owls, and that's how he ends up factoring in with Harley and Ivy to see the Court of Owls, just for different reasons. Now, I love the Court of Owls. I think it's a fantastic Batman storyline. It's great that we're getting more mainstream appeal for the Court of Owls. They're going to be the villains in the Gotham Knight video game and potentially even live action with the Batman. The portrayal in Harley Quinn, I do worry that it's going to rub some fans of the Court of Owls the wrong way, because even I am kind of iffy about it as a portrayal. As much like everything in Harley Quinn, it is a bit silly in nature. They arrive to see the Court of Owls, and they're not allowed to sacrifice actual goats anymore, so they have a goat piñata. And then we shift into them having a huge orgy. That was not on the agenda I expected for the Court of Owls, for them to just have big orgies. So, as you can imagine, my reaction was very similar to Harley and Ivy, just shock and horror as this starts to take place. Thankfully, none of our main cast of characters get involved in the orgy. I mean, Bane was there and he was close to being in there, but he was eating a giant sub. Bane always makes me laugh. He's just one of those characters in this show that I always get a big laugh out of. I mean, he's still very pissed off about the pasta maker. So Someone needs to just get this man a pasta maker at this point. Like, it's just the principle of it all. But Catwoman and Bruce are here as well. I think the coolest part about Bruce being there is when Gordon and him have an interaction while they're disguised. But you do see, because of his mask, Bruce's silhouette does look very much like Batman, but Gordon doesn't piece everything together at the time. Catwoman being there does cause all of the lies to unravel between Harley and Ivy. Since Harley now knows that Ivy was lying about Catwoman saying that she's not allowed to do all of these different things, and Cy told Ivy that Harley is the one that destroyed all of the cameras. But it does escalate in a different way, because through all of their arguments back and forth, we find out that Catwoman and Ivy used to hook up years ago, and she never told Harley about it, which causes some friction. All of this does go in a very predictable direction. You know, Harley and Ivy reconcile when Ivy tells her the truth, and how her relationship with Harley feels real. It's still super sweet. The only problem, though, with the way that we end off this episode, is we still never find out who took Frank. We never actually figured out who that mole belonged to. Frank is seen still strapped to the table, kidnapped, so we gotta wait a whole nother episode at least to figure out what the hell happened to Frank. So poor Frank does not get saved in the end of the episode. But yeah, another solid episode of Harley Quinn Season 3. It's gonna be a lot of fun talking about this series each and every week with you guys, much like I did with Season 2 of Harley Quinn. If you have stuck around since Season 2 to talk about the show, kudos to you. But make sure you share your thoughts down below. What do you think of Episode 4 of Harley Quinn Season 3? Do you like the episode? Not like the episode? How are we feeling about the Court of Owls in this, if you're a big fan of the Court of Owls? Are you okay with this kind of goofy, silly portrayal in this? Not a fan? And also share any thoughts or theories you may have, and we're going to go with the rest of Season 3, because part of the fun is having the conversation with you guys in the comment section down below. Thank guys, always check the reviews. I really appreciate that. Make sure to leave a like on the video, and also subscribe to the channel so you're always doing reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.